I can have anything I want with porn. If I want light, if I want dark, if I want tall, if I want short, if I want Latina, if I want Asian, I can have it all. And with all of that variety, how could the same woman compare to all of this? In porn, everything's perfect.
You can't compare to somebody who is hot instantly, wet instantly. I don't sound like that. I don't look like that. I don't move like that. So that now when you see your spouse, that doesn't do anything for you. It's like a peanut butter and jelly to a smash burger. You know what I mean? Men struggle to be turned on because they have created this appetite for the pornography, and it's a quick fix.
Somebody who's got a bottle in their hand and they're just all inebriated, that's what you think of when you think of an addiction. So I'm discreet. I watch porn, but how many hours are you watching it?
I hear people say all the time, I'm not interested in counseling. Counseling doesn't work. The wrong counseling doesn't work.
Yeah.
The right counseling works.
Hey, we're Hasani and Danielle, and you're watching Marriage Intervention, where we answer all of your questions concerning infidelity.
Hasani, we have a lot of questions that came in for today's show, and I want to start with the first one. And it says, my wife says she told me everything, but I still feel that there's more. I can't prove it. It's just a gut feeling. How do I know if this is intuition or just trauma?
Well, let me answer the last part of the question first. It's probably intuition and trauma. And oftentimes it feels exactly the same way. So you can have a strong feeling about something and it could be the absolute truth, or you can have a very strong feeling about something and it could be far off from the truth. It feels the same. But I think the deeper question is the idea that your spouse told you everything. And I would argue to say, in most cases, based upon the work that we've done, that typically is not the case until you actually go through a process where someone's facilitating those conversations. And here's why. Typically, when the affair comes out, there's a lot of questions, 1,001 questions. And if you're only answering the question that I'm asking, but I don't know all the questions to ask, it's quite possible that you're not going to share with me what I didn't ask. So I may know a portion of the betrayal story, but I may not know the full story, right? That's number one. The second thing is a lot of people engage in the trickle truth. We've talked about this for years. And it's almost like a faucet that drips and trickles water drop by drop by drop. And people do that when it comes to truly uncovering all things concerning the betrayal because they don't want to hurt their spouse, or they fear the consequences of what may happen if the truth comes out. There's many reasons people have. And so if you're feeling something, I would go with that feeling, dig a little deeper. And if it seems to be creating tension in the relationship, you need to reach out to a professional that can facilitate that conversation.
100% agree. And I would also add that, don't dismiss your feelings, right? Because intuition and, the intuition that you're having is one thing, right? But I think oftentimes because there are always two conflicts that are happening at the same time, right? What's actually happening on the exterior and then what's happening on the inside. And so oftentimes what's happening on the inside is the emotional side. That's the trauma. That's those experiences that you're feeling. Those are the triggers that will result from other past experiences. But then there's the actual physical things that's happening. And I think we don't want to dismiss those things. So, what are you seeing that gives you a sense that maybe she's withholding? What is her behavior? Like, how is she operating when it comes to you asking questions about the affair? Is she open? Is she transparent? So, the body and life gives us a lot of clues to help us make a certain decision about what's actually going on. And there may be some reasons why she might be doing it. To your point, if she has not gone through an actual full disclosure process where she has been led by a counselor through answering questions and exposing the truth, most of the time she's going to answer questions and at the same time be trying to operate with some type of damage control. right?
Absolutely.
So she's going to answer the questions to give you a sense of peace, but that doesn't mean that you're getting the full truth.
You're probably just getting a piece.
You're getting a piece,
right?
Exactly, of the full truth. And that's really what you want. You want full disclosure, because if you don't have full disclosure, that's when jump scares happen later, right? You never got the full truth, and then something trickles out later and you were blown away and blindsided by it because you thought you'd already resolved this. You didn't know that it happened in June. You thought it was in September, but September is significant because in September, this was our anniversary and these things were going on, right? And so one thing leads to another, and you want that full disclosure. So I would just say, don't dismiss those suspicions that you have. Use your senses and what's actually physically happening in the room to help you determine whether or not you need to investigate deeper with a, certified counselor.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, Danielle, communication is probably the most important skill that you have to have when there's been a betrayal, because by default, whether the unfaithful partner is conscious of it or not, they're engaged in deception. We think that if I didn't lie, I didn't tell you a lie, as if that's the only form of deception. In the book, Moving Forward After Infidelity, there's a chapter entitled The Cube of Deception. Like, think about going to the casino and rolling dice. You never know what you're going to get. And oftentimes in these conversations, it feels like I just never know what I'm going to get. Sometimes you're flat out lying. Sometimes there's an omission of truth. Sometimes you're giving a false impression. Sometimes you're omitting information. Like, there's all different forms of deception that a person is willfully, consciously engaged in or unconsciously doing, but it ultimately results in more confusion and chaos.
And the liar doesn't know what they're going to get. And that's why there's this web of lies, because and eventually you web yourself so tight into the lies that the lies just come spilling out, right? You can't keep lying on top of lie without the truth coming out at some point in time. So on both sides, right? We're talking about somebody who's questioning, have I been told the truth, right? Like, he has been told that you have received full disclosure. He's questioning that. Is that true? What we know is that if you haven't gone through a full disclosure process, odds are you do not have the full truth, because at the end of the day, the person wants to preserve the relationship, the marriage, all the things, your heart, your mind. They don't know what's safe to say, what's not safe to say. They don't know what reaction you're going to have based on what you say. And so if you have not gone through a process that leads you through that in a safe, controlled environment, odds are you don't have the full truth.
And Danielle, if you've been in an affair, whether it's a one-night stand, a couple weeks, couple months, or a couple years, the affair within itself, it's a lie. Either I'm lying to myself about something, lying to you about something, keeping a secret from the spouse, so that's a lie. So there's deception all throughout it. And so in an affair, if you're keeping it up, you have to keep lying and covering bases and, doing all types of deception or completely
avoiding. We're not talking about this anymore. I've told you everything. We're not talking about this anymore, which is a sign, right?
Oh, huge
It's a huge red flag that there's more to be told. But you know what? If you keep asking me these questions, then there's going to be a crack in my story. And now it's going to start all over again. And guess what? I'm protecting you, right? Oftentimes they think that they're protecting the betrayed spouse by hiding information when you're really just continuously hurting them. And when the truth comes out, it's even more devastating because they thought that they had the full truth and then found out that actually D-Day was today. D-Day is the day that more trickle truth comes out.
And they think that, if we could just move past this, we can be all right. But if you have lied about the betrayal and you decide to move forward, your spouse will then begin to question everything about the relationship. Now, what we have found is that it's not just a person lying about the affair. They're lying about the dynamics in the relationship. They're lying about things in general. So now, because I don't feel safe with you, because I don't feel like I can tell you the truth, when it comes to basic things like, wait a minute, you were supposed to be home at 6:30. Where were you? Oh, I just, what had happened was I went to the store. And then the truth comes out that you actually went somewhere else. You lied about that. Something simple. So because you lied about that, now your spouse can't trust anything, because if you would lie about something so trivial, what else are you keeping from me? So this breach of trust and triggers, we've said this 1,000 times, are the two things that take the longest to work through and or to overcome in your restoration process.
Yeah. So the answer to the question is it's intuition and trauma.
Yeah, it's both.
And actually get into some good counseling so that you can work through both.
Absolutely. All right. Here's the next question. We separated after his affair, but we're still sleeping together sometimes. It
Oh.
feels confusing, and I don't know if that's helping us reconnect or just making things worse.
Yeah. That's tough because I'm hearing this as, so they're no longer together, right? Is that what we're hearing?
Technically,
They're
not
separated.
together. They're separate. I would assume that it says they're separated, so they're
Right.
still legally married.
So they're legally married, but they're separated. So the more questions than answers right now, because I'm thinking, okay, what happened in the marriage? Why that made them separate? Like, why did they separate? Right. So there was
His
obviously,
affair.
okay, so it was his affair that caused them to separate. So now you're separated, not living under the same roof, and you're still engaging in sex together.
Mhm.
So to me, this is like double betrayal to self at this point, because now not only is this person free to come and go and do whatever they want to do, but they get to have their cake and eat it too, right? So now they're still coming back to you. You're still giving your body to them. And that can feel like an internal betrayal, right? Because you don't have this person's total heart, mind, soul, body. It's obvious that you're sharing it with this person. There's no fidelity there. So it's a continuous trauma.
Let's just say they're separated because of an affair. The affair is over, but I need my space. But yet with this space, we still come together and engage because guess what? We are married. And the person who's the betrayed spouse wants it just as much as the unfaithful spouse. They both want it. And so the question is this helping them to truly reconnect, or is it making things more confusing and matters worse?
I think that because it's uncontrolled, there's something called the controlled separation,
Okay,
right?
talk
A
about
controlled
that.
separation is where someone who is trained in helping you, a counselor who's trained to help you to be separated, but actually work towards repairing the marriage, is guiding you through a process of reconciliation, right? So if they were under that kind of tutelage, it would be beneficial that they were actually taking those steps to re-engage and connect sexually and emotionally and all the other things. But if they're just doing this, wild, wild west style, right? They both live separately. There's been no ground rules established. Who knows if you're dating or if you're not? We don't talk about what we're not doing or are doing when we're separate. We just come together and engage in sex because these are the needs. This can be highly destructive to the relationship. And yes, it could make it worse.
Yeah, that's true. Because sex, you got to understand, there is a release of chemicals. There are a release of hormones, and it could make you feel as if everything's okay because you have the bonding connection, you have the in love feeling that comes from that experience. And sometimes we think because we feel better, that'll make things right. But there's no foundation because you haven't gone through a true recovery process. So I think when you're separated, and it's controlled, there should be a period of time where you do abstain because sex can confuse things because your emotions are involved. And I need to be able to look at things and process things from a healthy perspective, not just an emotional perspective. And I think having the right guidance and the right steps can actually help. I mean, we've talked about this all the time, this sex fast that's appropriate for some couples so that they can build real intimacy, not sex, intimacy, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual intimacy, and form a bond and connection, and then introduce sex. And so if you're doing it in that format, I think it can actually lead to the healing of the relationship rather than the destruction thereof.
100% agree. And, I think it's important to get into the controlled separation. I think that's important to say because you're already separated, so you're doing it your way. And what I have discovered is that oftentimes when they do that on their own, they just consistently drift apart, right? And so now it gets worse and there's more offenses that take place because there were no expectations set, right? So because you're in that situation, again, reach out, connect. This is what we do. We oftentimes recommend controlled separations when it's appropriate for a couple, when this is what they need in order for them to take a break, right? To get the counseling and the support that they need to learn how to come back together as one.
And I don't want to belabor this, but Danielle, if we're just separated, but every now and then we come together and have sex because we're still connected, but we have no rules about how we should be functioning under two different households, well, what's keeping me from having sex with someone I just met a couple weeks ago?
That's the point.
So now you feel betrayed right? So another affair has occurred because we're legally married, but under two different rules, but we didn't have any clear
Yes.
expectations. And I thought we were good to do whatever we wanted to do, but that wasn't your expectation. And now more betrayal
Yes.
happens because there's a lack of clarity.
And this is why it is a fast track to divorce. And what happens is you do this on your own. You're separated, right? You have no ground rules.
Mhm.
People are doing what it is that people do. And now you're offended and you're hurt and you divorce because there was compounded offenses. So get the support that you need. That's it. Like, people are doing kind of finding clues and Googling things to do. Oh, I've heard of this controlled separation. Let's do that. And sometimes it's necessary to separate, but you can't do it on your own without any guidelines, without somebody structuring how to come back together.
And facilitating what your journey looks like as you go through your journey. And that's what's critically important.
Absolutely. All right. So we have another question. It says, I cheated years ago, confessed, and we worked through it. Or so I thought. Now she brings it up in every single argument. Does that mean she never really forgave me?
That's a deep one. So a couple things. We got to talk about, number one, working through it. What does that really look like? Because many people do take a DIY approach and they figure, you know what, if we get a book, if we go to a class, I mean, to be quite honest, when we were in not a good space, the last thing I wanted to do was go to a counselor.
That's a fact.
I wasn't interested in no other man telling me how to live my life.
Or woman.
Or woman.
Especially woman, right? You
I didn't want to go to the preacher man because I didn't want him preaching about us on the Sunday service. So I'm like, let's do this on our own. And I think that it's hard. If I'm a doctor and I get into a car accident, I can't perform my own surgery. I need to submit to someone else's wisdom and authority. Likewise with counseling, you cannot do it on your own effectively. And those who have tried, because we've had people who literally have gone away for the weekend, rented a cabin, and read the book and attempted to do the work. And they were doing the right things in the wrong order, not getting the right results.
Yeah.
Right? I think about a Rubik's Cube. There's a million different combinations to solve a Rubik's Cube, but the shortest amount of combinations is about 18. So there's a sequence and a order and a process to things to solve this puzzle. Likewise, same thing with an affair. So you may have thought that you did the work, but I wonder what you actually really did.
And I like the fact that they work through it. So couples do this all the time. We started out by working through it, right? Remember the cassette tapes? You were playing it. You can start out that way. I mean, it's excellent to start out that way because that shows intention, but you can't just leave it that way because there's so many areas of recovery that will be just left undealt with, right? So, when you start talking about every argument, she brings things up. There were some things that were never unearthed in the process that they went through, whether they did a DIY or whether they went to a counselor that was not a specialist. I mean, we talk about this all the time. You have to find a counselor that understands marital recovery and restoration. You don't go to a counselor who specializes in, ADHD patients or child adolescents, behavioral issues for your marriage issues, right? But that's what we do. We go on psychology.com and we pick someone that looks like us, that we like what they're talking about, and we just choose them because it says counselor or because it says PhD or whatever, right? And then you get into the counseling and you're no better off than you were before.
Facts.
So it's important to start someplace.
Yeah.
I like that part of it. But how did that process help her recover if she's still triggered by things? If every 5 minutes she's bringing it up, that is telling you that there is a wound that has been covered up by a leaky bandage, right? And that thing is still oozing and it's still got sores in it. And she really needs to go and deal with that wound. So that, again, we don't want to sound like a broken record, but really, it's important for you to find the right counseling. The right support is when you'll get the results. I hear people say all the time, I'm not interested in counseling. Counseling doesn't work. The wrong counseling doesn't work. The right counseling works. You wouldn't go to a, heart surgeon for an ear problem.
Yes. and most marriages are broken because of broken counseling.
Yeah.
Right? Your counselor can be broken. But it keeps coming up in every argument, which makes me think, because we talk about these marital patterns that people find themselves in post-infidelity. This is what we will call the sufferer marital pattern, that it seems like no matter what the issue is, it could be I was 5 minutes late for dinner, or it could be anything. I dropped something on the floor. The affair keeps coming up, right? And so it's just like, it's a mystery why this couple's still together. It's a mystery why they can't overcome any issue. And they're honestly always in like internal conflict. It's like a low intensity warfare they continue to engage in. And it is a sign that there hasn't been genuine forgiveness, right? Because forgiveness is a huge thing, but genuine forgiveness is a specific type of forgiveness. But if it's constantly on my mind, constantly in my mouth, and I'm constantly using it as a weapon, right, of control, manipulation, or I'm just bleeding from the heart because we haven't dealt with it, yeah, probably forgiveness hasn't been truly actualized, and there's a role that both of you have to play in that forgiveness process. Yeah. So if that's you, if you're struggling with this, you need to get some help. So the next question is a call-in question, so let's listen to what she has to say.
Let me ask the question. Why does it feel like I'm the only one doing the work in this marriage when I was the one who was betrayed? Like, I really feel like I'm doing the work. Could someone please answer that question for me? It seems so unfair. I'm doing all the work and I was the one who was betrayed. And he's just sitting there. Help me with that, please.
You know, my question is, what is the work that she's doing, right? Because I hear this often. I'm doing all the work, and it sounds like, she's gone back to routine. She's maybe, I can only speculate what all the work means, right? She's going back to the routine. Maybe she's, still cooking and still supporting and still helping as the wife, all the roles that we play, right? And he is the benefactor, right? So he's benefiting from her good deeds, so to speak, right? I don't know if this person is in counseling or not. I don't know what the work is, but it sounds like to me, she thinks that she has kind of tried to move forward and he's not doing anything. And we see this happen a lot, right? Like when the partner who has been betrayed has been forgiven, or at least there's an attempt at forgiveness, they're like, whew, I'm in the clear. I'm off the hook. They go back to living life wonderfully, eating meals. The appetite is back, drinking and marrying and everything else. And unfortunately, when there's not a proper process for actual real healing, this can cause a lot of resentment in the betrayed partner. The betrayed partner can get angry at the betrayer's joy. Just seeing the person who betrayed them happy and benefiting from their attempt at forgiveness and benefiting from all the things that marriage, provides, yet you hurt me. What are you doing? Right. And so I think that that's a huge issue, and getting into the weeds of it would be helpful, because you could kind of help this man, like figure out, okay, how can you show up a little bit more in this marriage? Like real talk. When it comes to marriage, husbands and wives do a lot of work to support the husband in general. There's a lot that we do to help. We're the helper, right? And we do that joyfully when there's no offense. We take pride in our help. We take pride in making sure that you have some body butter when you need some oil on your hands. And, whenever you ask us something that's in the bottom of our purse, we have it. And, we take care of the children. We take care of the home. And obviously we work and we do a lot of things, right? And all of those things come naturally and with joy until there's a betrayal. When the betrayal takes place, every single solitary issue, flaw, idiosyncrasy, and problem with you is magnified 1,000 times. They were already there. We already saw them. We accommodated them. Okay? We supported them. We covered them. We did all those things. And now, after betrayal, there's something that happens where the grace is kind of diminished, where we had grace to cover your stuff and look past it. Now we see everything with a magnifying glass. And I think that might be what she's struggling with. And, this man needs to know that she's actually bitter. It sounds like she's living in resentment, and that only gets worse. Resentment literally transmutates into bitterness, and bitterness is a stronghold that has to be uprooted and takes a lot longer than if it were handled in the beginning.
Wow, that was powerful. Now, when I hear this question, this is what I hear. Because if you think about it, 97% of the people who reach out to us for help are women, And they've reached out to us because they spent several days or several weeks watching video after video after video. They've read articles, they've purchased books, they've gone to seminars, they've asked ChatGPT all the questions. That's what they mean by doing all the work. They're trying to learn and understand what it is that they're going through. And typically the unfaithful partner doesn't want to deal with it at all. They just want to move forward. I don't want to answer any questions. I don't want to continue to have these conversations. Can we act like it just didn't happen? Can we just forget about it? I said I was sorry. I said I'll never do it again. And so they think because they're good, their spouse should be good. Yeah. And guess what? We don't need counseling because I made a decision I wasn't going to do it. You need counseling because you're the one that's hurting. But the fact of the matter is, if the unfaithful partner cheated, there was probably some hurt, pain, and brokenness in that person that led them to do what they did in the first place. Mm-hmm. And if they're not willing to acknowledge their own internal brokenness, then why would they get help for something they don't need help for? And so I think there needs to be a level of awareness of what's going on inside of the heart and the mind of the unfaithful partner that caused it to happen. That's the work. So the work is what we do as a couple. The work is what you do as a betrayed. The work is what I do as the unfaithful. So it's a three-pronged approach. And if we only focus on you because you're outwardly crying, you're emotionally bleeding, you're the one that's a wreck, and we ignore this, then what's keeping this from happening again and again and again and again and again? So it does require work. And unfortunately, this is very common. We hear this all the time. And I think that there needs to be a reckoning in this relationship in terms of if we're going to move forward, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it has to look like, because I can't continue to remain in this relationship the way things are. And I've said this countless times, typically with men, they want the marriage. I didn't cheat because I wanted to leave. I cheated because I wanted to stay. If I wanted to leave, I wouldn't have to cheat to leave. I just leave. In a man's selfishness, he wants the best of both worlds. He wants the marriage and the mistress, because maybe from the marriage, he gets stability, he gets family, he gets order and structure. But from the mistress, that's where he gets emotional connection and fun and sexual fulfillment. And so, I'm attached to my spouse, but I'm attracted to my mistress. And now I can have both realities in my own space. But now when his walls come tumbling down because the affair is over and I no longer have that attraction, and I need to reestablish it with the person that I have the connection or the attachment with, work is required to do that. So it's the affair work, it's the marital work, it's the individual work, and that's why you need somebody who knows a little bit about this to guide you through that process.
Powerful answer. Let's talk about this last question here. I think this is a great way to wrap up this episode. Because this is something that's talked about quite often and comes before us a lot. The question is, my husband says porn isn't cheating because there's no real person involved. But it feels like a betrayal to me. Am I being too sensitive?
Yeah, this could be a whole episode, Danielle, because unfortunately, just like emotional affairs, like I didn't know that was cheating. A lot of people watch videos and don't think that, hey, this is cheating. But it is a betrayal because it is a betrayal of trust. It is a violation to the relationship because I am fixating my eyes on an alternative other. And what happens is, forget physical sex. If I'm locked in to pornography, first of all, let's talk about how damaging it is to a marriage. I can have anything I want with porn. If I want light, if I want dark, if I want tall, if I want short, if I want Latina, if I want Asian, if I want African, if I want Caucasian, I can have it all. And with all of that variety, how could the same woman compare to all of this, right? In porn, everything's perfect. There's no varicose veins. There's no ashy skin. There's no stank breath. There's no hair out of place. Everything is perfect. Why? Because it's a fantasy. So now I take this fictitious fantasy into my real life marital situation and get frustrated and discouraged because you won't show up the way these images and the way that these movies or porn videos that I watch are showing up. So it changes my desire. It changes my temptations. It changes my appetite for sex. And so now, because of what I did, it creates insecurity in you, because guess what? Now, if we do come together, you're covered. It's a blow to your emotions and your self-esteem and your body image, because, wow, she has big breasts, you have small. She has a big behind, you. Like, all of these things are creating so much distrust and decay in a relationship, even though I never physically touch. But guess what? Oftentimes affairs are not just about the sex, it's about desire. And if I have now a desire for something or someone other than you, it's a problem.
I think one of the most destructive things, and it's a blessing that we've not had this personally in our own marriage, but we deal with so many couples that struggle with this very thing, right? And it is so invalidating to the spouse. Now, there's way more men that are struggling with pornography than you have women that are struggling with pornography and watching it. But on both sides, you're dealing with some really invalidating content coming at you all the time. I mean, to your point, the different body parts and all those things comparing, right? You can't compare to somebody who is hot instantly, wet instantly. I don't sound like that. I don't look like that. I don't move like that, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing on the other side for men and women, right? And so you're so invalidated by it. But I think the worst thing, and I don't know what chemically happens, and maybe you can speak to this, what happens in the brain, but oftentimes men struggle to be turned on by their spouses now, right? Because they have created this appetite for the pornography, and it's a quick fix, right? Like everything is hot right then and there, and they don't have to wait for it, right? It's instantaneous gratification and satisfaction of something that is literally unattainable in your marital bedroom, right?
Yes.
So that now when you see your spouse, that doesn't do anything for you. It's like a peanut butter and jelly to a smash burger. You know what I mean? Like a peanut butter and jelly, yeah, it's food and nutritious. But a smash, I mean, I guess, but a smash burger is, you know, it's juicy, it's oozing with cheese, it's got it going on. And so this is what people are dealing with. And it's almost like they're caught up in their own trap, right? Because they're so addicted to the pornography and they want to go back to their marital bed, but there's something missing in the marital bed. And so now the spouse is the one to blame. Like, I need you to dress like this. I need you to be more like this. I need you to try these physical acts. And I have counseled many women who have tried their hardest to keep up with the pornography fantasies that their husband brings to the bedroom to no avail. When I tell you they have tried it, every it, and still nothing can cure the insatiable desire for the pornography.
Yeah. And let's just be real. Now, this is not everybody's situation, but some people watch porn and it's destructive, but it stops there. For others, they go a little bit further, because guess what? You're right. I can watch a bunch of videos. I don't know these people, but then it's just like, I want a little bit more, because what happens is dopamine. You said what happens in the brain? It's dopamine hits, right? It's a reward system. I'm rewarded, but at some point, what is now new becomes normal, and I need something a little bit more. So I'll transition from videos to online chats, to OnlyFans. So now I'm having a one-on-one encounter sometimes with another person. We're talking to each other. It's almost like virtual sexual experiences without physical gratification. And now, I don't know if you know, there's technology out there in a normal relationship. Like, there's technology where I can have a phone and lips attached to the phone. I'm kissing the lips and you have a phone with lips attached, and now we can kiss each other virtually through these devices. And those are the type of things that are being experienced virtually with strangers or with quote unquote pornography arena type experiences. And it is a betrayal. And what happens is, I think your point was such a valid point, and I don't want to skip over that. It diminishes the desire, the natural desire that you have for your spouse. So now when we have real sex, I can't keep it up. I can't stay hard. You don't get wet. There's no chemistry there. It's just physical friction and there's no intimacy
and maybe
there.
that's what he's looking for, really, because that's all he's ever seen, right? And so, I mean, speaking on the other side of it, like, it's very painful and uncomfortable for a woman to operate in reality what they're seeing in the pornography. It doesn't go like that, right? But they're trying to keep up with these desires because they're trying to please their husband. And this goes back to trying to normalize something that's not normal.
Yeah.
Right? There was another question that was talking about that. And so you're trying to normalize something that's not normal in the bedroom, and you're trying to keep up, and it's injuring you physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And honestly, you're just becoming more and more distant because he's not satisfied, because you're really never going to be able to satisfy that insatiable desire. He's going to finish with you and go right back to the porn, because porn is an addiction, right? So it's like you're trying to accommodate, but the accommodating is only making the situation worse. It's certainly not serving the relationship. So it's, again, I mean, it seems like it always circles back to getting the support and therapy that you need. But I think a lot of people underestimate the destructive power of pornography. I hear people talk about it all the time. It's just what guys do. It's normal, et cetera, et cetera. And they have no idea that they're stepping into a trap with a door that only opens on one side.
That's a fact. And just, if we can be honest, sexually, it has been said, studies have been done, that the more porn you watch, it could potentially make you a lousy lover, because you're modeling what's seen in the video. Yeah. In the video, there's no intimacy.
None.
There's no foreplay. There's no connection. And so a lot of times a spouse may feel like all he wants to do is just penetrate. Like there's no warm up, there's no anticipation, there's no foreplay, there's no anything. And so it makes for uncomfortable experience for the spouse, right? The wife. But then what it is just masturbation using another body to fulfill your own sexual desires, and it's very selfish, not selfless.
And it shuts her down. So now you see her as the problem, right? Because she tried to keep up with it. She couldn't keep up with it. It didn't serve or solve the problem, right? So she shuts down completely. And now you have an excuse, right? Because you won't give it to me. That's why I go to porn.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's such a destructive cycle.
And we got to talk about this addiction piece, because most people would never acknowledge themselves as an addict. Like that's the last thing they want to say is I'm an addict, because when you think of an addict, you think of somebody who's on methadone, or what's the drug that people are bent over sideways? Fentanyl, right? That's what you see. Somebody who's got a bottle in their hand and they're just all inebriated. That's what you think of when you think of an addiction. So I'm discreet. I watch porn, but how many hours are you watching it? What is it distracting you from? What is it keeping you from? How much money are you spending to support this quote unquote habit? And an addiction really is a uncontrolled habit. So if you would say it's a behavior that you've attempted to solve and fix, but you can't, habit, addiction, that's what it is. And it is destructive to a relationship. And so if you're experiencing that, you need to get help, because it is a form of betrayal that needs to be dealt with. So I hope this conversation was helpful. If you have more questions, tune into the next episode of Marriage Intervention.